Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. I am so glad to be back with you here on the channel. I'll jump right in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence or hatred or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. Okay, got that out of the way. So I'm so glad to be back with you. I thank you so much for supporting the channel. You make it happen. I'm going to plug here just for a second with the wonderful company C60 Evo, who supports this channel by allowing me to sponsor them. And so c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off of this amazing product. And this is, of course, the incredible C60 product, ESS60 molecule that gets into your mitochondria, cleans out your cells. At this time where they're presenting disease X about to come, we want to have our cells as healthy as we can. It fights inflammation, very useful in the fight against brain fog, depression, etc. So many people use it for fighting the big C because it cleans out the cells. And of course, properly functioning cells are what allow for proper die-off of non-functioning cells. So anyway, I just want to let people know that if you support the channel, you get 15% off, and there's a different email and link sent to you at that point. But we want to celebrate them who celebrates the channel. And I'll also just mention their facial serum, which I use. I love this stuff. As soon as you smell it, it's just gorgeous. Rosemary, something like 24 phytonutrients go into this all-organic C60 facial serum. And later this week, I'm going to have an interview with Patty, my friend, who is, of course, the co-founder of C60 Evo. We'll get more into it there for more information. Okay, so we have so much news tonight, and there's so much to do. Okay, we've got, of course, the World Economic Forum going on. It's just ongoing. It never ends. They're always back several times a year, but always in their January Davos, meetup. And what's happening there is so much really behind the scenes that I was going to deep dive into it, but I looked at it and watched so many of the speeches, von der Leyen, Zelensky. But I think tomorrow the Disease X panel is really the thing that I really want to see. Not that they're going to say much, but we're going to focus a lot in on that. And I'm going to also focus on that today. We have so much to say today, so I'm just going to jump in. And because I keep putting this off, we're going to be talking about a little bit more about Gonzo Lira. We're going to talk about the German leaked war plan with Russia. We're going to talk about Blumenthal's legislation to strip Trump of having executive power over the military, which is absolutely treasonous and unconstitutional. We're going to talk about multiple things here. We have a huge deck on file. So, but I've been wanting to talk about this for weeks, and so I'm going to talk about it now because it's connected to everything to do with all of these programs. And so I'm going to put on my glasses here. I did want to mention before I get started that over the weekend, of course, we had the great Real America's Voice put out an incredible documentary. I will link it below, called the J6, The Real Timeline, where they have done all of the heavy lifting with going over all the footage of what comes from the police cameras, the body cams from the police out of the J6 videos, showing how much of J6 was so massively, obviously, but we know this as, preaching to the choir here, but they show the videos of how the police really fueled the violence and everything that came after on J6. And then on the next day, that was Saturday, Saturday night, it was Cowboy Logic on Real America's Voice. I applaud them for putting it up. The next day on 60 Minutes, they had Ray Epps on 60 Minutes just this Sunday, right before Martin Luther King Day. They had Ray Epps on 60 Minutes saying he's such a victim, he's such a stand-up guy. And the timeline of J6 that was put out on Real America's Voice literally shows him as being the full instigator. But on 60 Minutes, we hear that he gets 1 year probation, and community service. Okay, community service. And literally, this is, we have the footage of them beating to death, of course, Roseanne Boyle, all the multiple casualties, the police themselves firing gas charges into their own police that we keep hearing so many police were injured. Well, this footage shows that it was actually done by police. So anyway, I'll leave that there. I will link it below so you can watch it for yourselves. But I wanted to cover this, and this has to do with the Charles River Laboratories out of Brazoria, Texas. Of course, when you think Charles River, you think Boston, right? And it is sort of the capital of biotech engineering. People don't think about Boston so much. Bosstown, right, with the blue blood, massive money out of Harvard, MIT, all of these schools that are funding so much research into this. But what we have, Charles River Laboratories, the biggest, I think, in the country importer of monkeys from Mauritius and other places in Central Africa and West Africa. These monkeys, these poor monkeys, but I want to talk about this. 43,000 monkeys to be imported to Brazoria County, Texas. And we need to stop it because it is basically the setup for a 12 monkeys situation and outbreak. As we've been talking about Davos, that is their big platform. I'll be talking tomorrow about Disease X and something else that I'll get into in a minute. And I've covered a bit here today as well, but I wanted to cover this crazy situation where they want 43,000 monkeys to be housed in this farm in Texas outside of Houston. And this is with a company that has a track record of of abuse, torture of these animals, not at all providing any of the safety guidelines or reporting on this as they're required to do by the federal government. So Charles River Laboratories is the largest importer of monkeys used for lab experiments in the United States. And they mostly come out of Mauritius. And the largest facility in the Western Hemisphere is planned for outside of Houston, Texas, 43,000. The largest now is 7,000, and that's also in Texas. We also, there was a massive outcry for them trying to put it into Florida, and I believe they stopped that. That was only going to be about 5,000 to 7,000 as well. So 50 miles south of Houston. And you think of Colonia, that migrant village they've created there outside of Houston as well. They all are connected to this waterways, okay, that feed into the Houston drinking water, the Houston waterways. And so they have this shell corporation called Candurt LLC, KNDURT LLC. To secretly purchase the land there. It abuts the San Bernard National Wildlife Refuge. And the Brazoria Board of Commissioners voted unanimously to urge federal authorities to stop this deal, okay, to stop this shell corporation coming in, buying this land that was going to become what is a long-tailed and rhesus macaw monkeys, okay, the long-tailed and rhesus macaw. They are beautiful animals that have total familial, whole social situation. They get abused and tortured in animal experimentation for the powers that be to create diseases to try to harm us humans, and so they use these monkeys. And basically, they specifically want these ones because the long-tailed and rhesus macaws are the most dangerous animal diseases and threats to humans that they can basically get, okay, when they're trying to go for zoonotic disease X or whatever it is. And so documents out of the CDC show that these macaws, they They transmit TB to humans. We've been seeing that in Texas already. They're attributing it to the migrants, giving TB to the cattle in Texas, them losing their TB-free status over this. This is huge. Malaria, herpes B, which is huge in the experimentation they're doing with disease X, Ebola. This is all things that these monkeys transmit. And so in 2020, 21, 22, the Charles River Laboratories failed to conduct disease prevention exams on these monkeys that they imported. They wanted them to be diseased, folks, because this is for experimentation for all those Texas biolabs, okay, of which there are many coming out of Baylor, et cetera, Texas. And so the land is on wetlands, creeks, and rivers, Houston connected waterways. And so that's huge and important to understand. One thing that they have captive monkeys colonies implicated with is Chagas disease. They have a massive history of animal abuse and torture, murder, pain experiments, all kind of things outside of the realm of regulations. So please take action. If you're in Texas, please contact your legislature and help stop Brazoria County from having this happen. They don't want it to happen. They are trying to literally stop it. So if there's any way you know how to do that, I know PETA has taken action about that. I know that my audience isn't pro-PETA, and to sign up to take action on their website, you have to basically sign up your life to PETA, which we don't want to do. So we need to find a way to get in touch with the people in Texas to stop this on a legislation level. So there's that about Charles River Laboratories importing 43,000 monkeys that have some of the most contagious diseases used for gain-of-function research in Houston, Texas, right next to, not many miles away from the Colonia Ridge. All right, so moving on from there, we have a lot more to talk about here. We've got tons. And so everything that I'm talking about is World Economic Forum. Okay, they're meeting, yes, they're all drolling on, but what they're really doing is behind the scenes, it's behind closed doors, and we don't get to see it. We just get to see their speeches that are pretty tepid so far from what I've seen. They're atrocious, but you have von der Leyen in her speech today saying that our number one threat is truth. Our number one threat to accomplishing the goals of the World Economic Forum is people being able to speak freely, right? You have Zelensky saying, is there any other government in the world, is there any other European military that is prepared as Ukraine to fight the Russian invasion that's coming? And basically calling to the floor, fund us or else, while there's supposed peace talks going on, but it's pretty limited. Basically, it doesn't seem to be happening, but because they want this war. And we have the supposed leaked information from the German defense ministry, which just looks like, no, they actually just wanted to have it happen. That the Ministry of Defense out of Germany leaks a document to build, which is, kind of not a total trash paper, but like a common paper there in Germany for people to get kind of the fluffy news. But they send this Ministry of Defense document out of Germany to build, and it talks about the Russian plot to invade Europe, right? So I guess I'm going to jump in there now. There's other things I want to get to first, but I will get to them after. I want to talk about geoengineering, how much it's playing a part in the world in this planned number 2, a crisis risk after telling the truth at the World Economic Forum. The number one threat is people telling the truth, okay, and how they must censor us. Number 2 threat was major weather altercations, weather attacks, weather created events. And that, of course, is what just happened in Iowa, in my guesstimation. And also, it's not my guesstimation. It is coming out of geoengineeringwatch.org with Dane Wigington, that absolutely they created the weather in Iowa to try to affect the caucuses. And of course, we have that whole situation to talk about as well, the caucuses and Vivek and all of it. But let's get into this Ministry of Defense leaked document to build, where they're saying this is what Russia plans to do. And of course, it's because we know Olaf Scholz, the chancellor there in Germany, is trying to prep the people for war. We have the Swedish civil defense minister coming out and saying we're preparing for war with Russia. We're sending troops to Latvia, and this all comes into this document. So let's get into it. So this is called the Alliance Defense 2025. Sorry. Alliance Defense 2025. And this is Russia plot to invade Europe. And this is, of course, this is a getting consent. It is they give you the information in advance so they can train your brain to accept that it's going to happen. And so this is what they say. Russia will attack Eastern Europe, probably including Poland and Sweden, seeing as Donald Tusk is setting up Poland for that, Sweden setting it up. And what they say is that in February of this year, 2024, there will be 200,000 Russian soldiers mobilized in a massive spring offensive to basically finish off Ukraine, right? Supposedly there's going to be peace talks at the World Economic Forum or prior to it. Those got largely shut down, with Zelensky giving the cokehead, as Gonzo Lira said so clearly, him and Hunter Biden, both owned by Kolomoisky, funded by Kolomoisky, massive cocaine addicts. And so on that note, actually, just a little aside, I want to say congratulations to Mike Lindell, throwing this in here at 17 minutes. Mike Lindell today is his 15th year anniversary of being sober. He was a crack addict, and he talks about this all the time. When he basically got sober, he got, cured by God, 100% full bore sober for 15 years today. And he has the LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. If you or people in your lives are struggling with addiction problems, you can go to LindellRecoveryNetwork.org for total free advice and help. And so congratulations to Mike Lindell, who's making massive strides to save our country. Thank you, God, for that. Okay, back to Germany leaking these documents. Okay, so Alliance Defense 2025. Russia will attack Eastern Europe, and then they will begin by July. They're going to amass 200,000 soldiers and finish off Ukraine in February. And then by July, they're going to begin massive cyber attacks, across Eastern Europe. And this, they're saying, will be on the Baltic nations. We're talking Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And of course, Sweden said we're putting troops in Latvia for military exercises, which we know are always military rollout plans. It's like it's like what happened in Israel, where you had the U.S. doing their Operation Juniper, whatever it was, with Israel before the October 7th attacks. Well, here we have this happening with Latvia and Sweden about to become part of NATO. And so they basically are saying that they're going to use Russian nationals, groups that they're setting up, right? Nothing to do that they were put in like a color revolution style, Soros style. No. There's going to be all these Russians in Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania that are going to cause so much of a ruckus that they're going to use this as an excuse. Russia will use it as an excuse to then launch a further attacks into Europe claiming that these are Russian states. They deserve them by their bloodlines, by their history. They deserve to have Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And it's kind of interesting when they talk about the cyber attacks. One thing to really remember here is that the Estonia was the first country to go all digital. Okay, digital money, digital everything. Your digital IDs. People were getting chips in their hands. They're paying with their hands. It's full Estonia e-citizens. I think Barack Obama became an e-citizen of Estonia, if I'm not mistaken, for entertainment purposes only, I'm pretty sure. And so Estonia is accepting worldwide citizens to become citizens of Estonia as e-citizens. And Estonia is fully digital. Digital wallet, digital currency, everything Estonia is digital. And so they're using this, of course, to be the platform for what will be Russia's massive cyber attacks, right? Because we know we have the cyber crises, the cyber polycrises, or the polycrises, including cyber attacks, that the World Economic Forum has said is about to happen anytime. With Disease X, we get the cyber attacks, we get Disease X, and of course the massive weather warfare, which they're calling weather events, right? Which is controlled weather manipulation, complete control. I'm going to get into that here in this video in a second. And so what they say is that by September, there will be clashes, okay, by these Russian outbreaks in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and they will roll out what they are calling Zapad 2024, ZAPAD 2024, which is a military battle plan to amass 50,000 Russian soldiers on the western border of Belarus and Kaliningrad on the Baltic Sea between Lithuania and Poland. Okay, and basically claiming the Baltics belong to Russia. All right. Then they're saying by December, they will have Russia taking control of what they call the Suwalki Gap, which is the corridor connecting Belarus with Kaliningrad. Okay, it's like an 86 square mile orphan land there. It's just like it's a spit. It's like an 86-mile spit that connects Belarus with Kaliningrad and Russia. And so this is the Suwalki Gap, also connected to Poland, I think. And then by January, they're going to have Russia accusing NATO. Okay, they're going to hold the UN Security Council meeting. This is all in their documents that they leaked to build. Basically, just trying to get our passive consent by knowing about them. And so we do not consent. We do not consent to war with Russia. We do not consent to war with Iran. We do not consent to war with Yemen. We do not consent to war. Okay, and Trump will stop war. And so we're very happy with, of course, the Iowa caucuses yesterday. Very interesting. I'll get into it. Okay, so what they say by the end of January, Russia will accuse NATO of plotting to overthrow Putin, okay, to do with this UN Security Council meeting. And then they say by March, there will be open war between the NATO countries and Russia in the Balkans. And so they're planning war in the Balkans. People, long story short, it took me 10 minutes to describe it. But that's what they're planning in this leaked Ministry of Defense document in Germany to build. They're trying to train your brain. They're trying to get you to accept that war is imminent and unavoidable. And it's very interesting when we look at the Feds and the Bank of International Settlements basically saying that, within a decade, all countries' GDP will be pretty much equal to their debt. We're close there in the United States. In the United States, we're something like almost to the point of where 98% of the GDP will go to debt, into entitlement, freebie payments to people. All of the free money going out to people. It's so massive, and it's really disturbing. And I'm going to get into that in a second, but, well, or maybe I'll get into it now. All right, so we've got this thing with Germany putting out this war plan while World Economic Forum is happening, while they're shutting down supposed maybe peace deal, while General Milley is seen at Davos. General Milley, this is Noor bin Laden, put this out, that she ran into General Milley there in Davos, where she overheard him saying that he is going to make visits in Ukraine, deals in Ukraine. So we have General Milley, for entertainment purposes only, dealing with weapons trafficking situations going on in Ukraine. We hear from our own government that there is not going to be any accounting for any of all of the ammunition and the munitions, the missiles, all of it that has gone to Ukraine. None of that accounting will be done until the end of 2023. And that's part of this spending bill, which you need to stop. Okay, we're going to shut down the government. It needs to be shut down on Friday night, right? Because we have Mike Johnson, we have Bible McCarthy doing nothing. There's nothing. They actually fled Washington today because of 2 inches of snow. Okay. Our Congress is inept and they're criminal, and you only have about 6 to a dozen actually doing the heavy lifting, trying to hold the line. Okay, and you need to hold the line. We need to stop them passing any of this bill that came out of Lucard or whatever his name is, out of Iowa. We need to stop him, and everybody should 100% be slamming him with a cease and desist around this, because this is huge. We have Langford out of the Langford-Schumer Senate bill, where they're trying to push this just awful spending bill that will give the southern border the power, right? It'll give the power to bring in more migrants, to process them more quickly, to give them a much more easy ride into the United States. This is what needs to be stopped. 202-224-3121 for the Senate, for Langford, Schumer et al. All your senators need to hear from you right now. And of course, 202-225-3121 for the House, that is trying to shut this down immediately. We need your help with this enormously. And before I go on too, I also want to say that we also have the sovereigntycoalition.org. We have the situation with the NACs that I've been talking about for, slamming for the last 2 weeks. It's so huge that we have to stop these natural asset companies that is being pushed through the SEC and being pushed into the New York Stock Exchange to create companies that will be traded on the New York Stock Exchange, being globally owned and operated, that control our natural lands here in the United States, our public lands, any easements that they can have to public lands, creating more and more national monuments to be sold into this system. So you think, oh, I have a national park, it's so nice. No, now they're going to sell it to the biggest bidder to come in as to manage it, right? For what is natural asset management, which means don't use anything on it. Don't use the minerals, the gas. Don't use anything that will make society prosper. And we need your help in stopping this, because this is literally just like I'm about to talk about here with the Federal Reserve's new definition of money. This is part of it. Money is no longer a way to a means for exchange for goods and services and property. Money is now overtly being a social control mechanism, and that is what NACs are, to allow the globalist hedge funds, the BlackRocks et al., Vanguard, to literally be in management of our natural resources and have controlling rights over them. You need to go to sovereigntycoalition.org and send immediate messages to your public officials, And they allow you to do that very easily. And then go to americanstewards.us and you can read all the responses so far. We only have until the 18th. It's coming up fast, folks. We need your participation in here, and also for you to call your senators, use the billblastersapp.org, get involved, and make sure that people know that, that they're about to lose our sovereignty. If our natural lands and resources are going to come under what they're planning to do for everything, which is out of World Economic Forum right now, where they're planning to basically control all natural assets on the earth. They're making the unified ledger, the global unified ledger, programmable unified ledger of all assets on the earth. Everything you own, everything that exists on earth, plants, animals, insects, soil, all of it. They're coming for it, and they are going to, they're finishing it up. The Bank of International Settlements, as I said, they're saying everybody's in debt within a decade. We can own everything, and they're coming to steal everything. And so I wanted to talk about this situation where the Federal Reserve has now added a fourth definition of what money is in their latest blueprint for their new future rollout. The Federal Reserve has now diverged from money being a profitable situation. Money is for profit, it's for growth. Money is for exchange. Money is for goods given and received. And they have literally put in a new definition now, which is that money is a means for social control. They literally say it outright, and they're talking about it huge in Davos this week. Money is a means for social control, okay? And this has everything to do with the digital currency, digital ID system. And so Nikki Haley, what she has said so clearly is that when she gets in, she is going to have a digital ID for everybody to even use the internet. Everybody is going to have to be absolutely surveilled on the internet. But this goes further than that, which is that their plan, and it's Nikki Haley's plan, because remember, she wants to raise the age for people to retire to get their Social Security income. Well, what she's also saying, what's coming out is that Social Security, which isn't there, it's been raided. The Social Security Trust Fund is gone. They've stolen it all, right? And that's why they want to raise the retirement age. But what she really means is that when we get this digital ID going, to collect your Social Security benefits, you're going to have a digital ID, okay? And it's going to be a CBDC system. So in order to get it, you're going to have that mark of the beast, of the digital ID, to get your Social Security benefits. And not only that, their other plan to capture people with the digital ID system and the universal programmable ledger, meaning they can take it away, stop it, control your digital ID money access system at any time because it's programmable, as they have tokenized all assets on Earth. What they're going to do is use the tax system. And it's one of the reasons that you have the Bidens hiring 800 million new IRS agents and putting $80 billion into it, is because they're going to translate our tax system where you no longer be allowed to pay by check, to pay, independent of their immediate surveillance of you and your bank account if you pay online. No, the payment of all taxes will be with your digital ID, okay, using CBDCs, okay? And this is meant to go into force by September 15th, 2024. So within 9 months from today, they will be, or yesterday, they'll be implementing this to go in and go forward, where they plan that you're going to have a digital ID by then. Well, it's interesting considering what I just said with the German Ministry of Defense leaking this document saying that we're going to have all massive cyber attacks. They're saying, oh, it's only Eastern Europe. Well, we know the the Polygon crisis that they talk about poly crises, right? They call it, that there'll be multiple ways that the WEF is saying that we're going to get attacked at the same time. And so if they're planning to have this through the Bank of International Settlements out of Switzerland that controls everything, and that all of the WEFers, Nikki Haley out of McKinsey and Company, DeSantis, Jesuit operative out of the Bushes, whoever, they're saying we're coming for this. And so they must be planning something that's larger than Eastern Europe for the summer, that has to do with cyber, it has to do with banks, it has to do with our control of our money. And so only thing I can suggest, verifiedgoldbacks.com. I have nothing to do with it, but it looks really good. We had Mike Adams out of Natural News test these goldbacks. They're basically dollar, they're bills, cash bills, cloth cash, that are imbued with gold. And you had Mike Adams test them thoroughly and said they're actually larger value than they pretend. They wanted to err on the side of generosity instead of being called out for not being what they said they were. So verifiedgoldbacks.com. And so moving ahead with that, as we know that crisis will be used, I wanted to get into kind of bring it back down here. I might wind up with this even though I have so much else to say, but that's going to have to be tomorrow. Where we have Dane Wigington, who does the heavy lifting with everything geoengineering and the threat to humanity and the threat to the planet, that is being pursued rigorously by the World Economic Forum, but by the trillionaires. Okay, it's being a central part. Number one on the risk assessment, I think it was developed by Rand Corporation, but given to the World Economic Forum. Number one was telling the truth. Number one was we must censor everybody so we can have control, as Ursula von der Leyen said today in her speech. It just shows how clearly that if we don't have control over disinformation, we will not win. We will not win our global government. And the number two was extreme weather events. And of course, the weather events are manufactured by Raytheon and NOAA, right? We get this clearly defined by links that I'm going to put below. But what Dane Wigington came out today and said, this is an interview with Maria Z, great Maria Z, and I'll link her below. Well, what Dane Wigington said is that this ice out that happened in Iowa is clearly seen as a weather control event, having to do with what is the endothermic chemical elements being put into the atmosphere, what they call ice seeding in the atmosphere for the Iowa caucuses. And I'm going through it here. It's like a giant whiteout of just this fog that never leaves. It could contain anything and certainly be seeded with this disease X. And we're going to talk about Porton Down here and their new laboratory that they have made to create disease X there at Porton Down in Wiltshire, England, in the most secure facility in England with multiple P4 labs. But they can put in nanoparticles using geoengineering, using deployed spraying of these nanoparticles anywhere they want at any time. And this endothermic chemical elements ice seeding in the atmosphere is what Dane Wigington had to say today. He said it was very clear through the maps that we get. They have scheduled weather maps. Okay, you can, they've gotten more clandestine. I know that Maria Z was able to find on NOAA, NOOA, the National Weather Control mechanism of the United States that does all of this geoengineering using Raytheon and other military dark money. Well, basically you can see their prediction and their scheduled weather map of all of their deployed programs throughout the world. I'll link it below. They show everything they're doing. They don't hide it. They talk about solar radiation management of the whole Earth, blocking out the sun. If you haven't never seen The Dimming, a great documentary by Dane Wigington, The Dimming, that talks about literally trying to kill us, to deprive us of vitamin D, the dimming all over the planet. But it's beyond that. It is literally scheduled weather warfare, all their projects. But when we look at what they scheduled for Iowa, 6 to 10 days to now, and into the end of this week, is Iowa as the cold epicenter of this massive ice seeding thing that goes all through the Midwest. And they're into Texas, into the Northeast, but it is ice seeding. They're deploying chemicals in the atmosphere that cause ice seeding, and so you'll have it be like way warmer in the upper atmosphere, 5,000 feet above the Earth, than you will have it be on the Earth, which is just not normal. It's not natural. The Earth doesn't do it. The processes of the Earth, the sun, the moon don't do it. It's completely controlled. And so what we're seeing, like around me here, total same thing, fog, this frozen fog that doesn't ever leave. And there's definitely crap in there. People around me, everybody's suffering from different kinds of signs of whatever's in there. You can watch them lay the lines. You can see the sun every once in a while behind it. And they are basically able to seed it with whatever they want. And we know they're going to be seeding it with massive amounts of biowarfare coming up here in the next, this year. And I'm going to keep talking about that. So what we have here is this situation where they literally ice seeded the sky, all with the culmination being in Iowa, to freeze everybody out, to try to affect these elections. Luckily, we have an incredible base of incredible patriots that was not going to be denied getting to the caucuses and did their thing. And yes, there's extreme weather in Iowa, normally, but they usually don't let it happen. This time they engineered it, right? Because usually what's going to happen next week, what Dane Wigington has said and what's projected by NOAA, is that there's going to be extreme heat, okay? So we get this massive cold front, this ice seeding that creates these blizzard conditions, or at least total fog and cold conditions. And then next week, what you're going to get, according to Dane Wigington, I'll link it below, is massive high temperatures. And so these high temperatures in places where all these blizzards happened, you're going to get record-breaking high temperatures just 1 week later, all right? And what are we going to see? Massive problems. We're going to see flooding huge, right? All that blizzard snow, all of the fog and rain and ice of other areas in the Northwest. You're going to get massive flooding. And this is what they're trying to do, just the next layer. And this is called, what he calls it is, he calls it the weather whiplash rebound, whiplash rebound. So he outlined how Texas has been colder right now than parts of Greenland, right, up near the Arctic. They're at like 40 to 50 degrees. Again, all geoengineered. This is not natural. Man-made climate change is real, but it's done by Raytheon and NOAA and the independent contractors and the domestic air flights that are brought into this. We had Dane Wigington talking about that he had recently interviewed a man named Graham Hood out of Qantas Airlines out of Australia, saying that he absolutely does know that domestic flights are being used to deploy these particulates. And so this thing next week with the record heat wave we're going to get for January is going to cause all kinds of natural disasters. And that's the point, this constant jerking back and forth with nature to destroy the natural processes of the cycles of the planet. And so we'll see what happens next week. We're going to absolutely be covering it and go on from there. And so it's all part of this essential polycrises, okay, being outlined in the WEF, with number 2 being extreme weather events. And they love to do them while they're in session. They're just applauding themselves, okay, with their success in the Arctic blasts there in Iowa. And part of that, which I think is very interesting, is that part of that Arctic blast situation is that it left electric vehicles completely stranded. Those batteries cannot hold charge in extremely low temperatures. We're seeing in Canada and also like Chicago and Iowa this week, where the EVs could not charge. It would cost people enormous amounts of money to get the charge into the car, and then it would drain or so rapidly they couldn't even get on their commutes. And so this is what's happening. Money to the wind farms that don't operate in cold weather, to the solar farms that don't operate when you dim out the sun, shut down all the other energy. And so we saw this week that the EV cars are not working. And this is meanwhile in Texas, they're being told, hey, we don't have the electricity. We shut down the coal, the natural gas in Texas. And so these wind farms and solar farms aren't working. So please shut down your dishwashers. Don't wash your dishes. Don't wash your clothes or dry your clothes. Turn those things off. We need that energy to try to keep you from freezing to death, right? Like they did a few years ago, where they literally killed over 100 people, I think, in Texas from that horrendous geoengineering ice blast they did there. But also Hertz and other rental car companies are selling out their fleets of EV vehicles. They're just selling them. They're like in the 20s of thousands, getting rid of them. People don't want to rent them. It's not happening. And they're saying it's failed. We're getting rid of them. And so there's so much more besides this. I wanted to get into, but I'm sort of feeling cooked here. I wanted to get into Disease X. It is definitely connected with everything the World Economic Forum is rolling out. So I'm going to do Disease X tomorrow. I'm going to do the situation with Bayer Monsanto taking over our soil with GMO soil microbes, which the microbiome of the planet has already been massively destroyed by geoengineering. And the reason they've been killing all the natural the fertilizer, the nitrogen fertilizer, is because they plan to do this GMO soil microbes instead. Again, massive, full of sensors, grow vaccines through the plants. Ethanol is hugely connected to this. I'm going to get into this. This is Bayer Monsanto's connection with the Ginkgo Bioworks. I'm going to talk about that. The Disease X panel is tomorrow out of WEF. I'm gonna watch that, analyze that, get into Ginkgo Bioworks, get into this plan to steal literally the earth from under our feet with planting GMOs into the soil, which isn't new. They've been doing it, but this is a new announcement. And we'll get into multiple things besides. I just want to let people know that, we've got Trump today. He has to go from this big win in Iowa to go to New York City to deal with a defamation suit by E. Jean Carroll, funded by Reid Hoffman, same guy who's funding Nikki Haley, is funding all the lawsuits against Trump to do with E. Jean Carroll. Now he's getting sued again by her, but for continuing to deny that he did anything to her, doesn't know her, and defamation suit. Okay, but then he goes to New Hampshire tonight, and that's happening right now as I'm doing this video, so I can't report on it, but we want to see. It's very interesting to see Vivek step out. That scares me a little. I'm not worried about him stealing votes from Trump. Trump is so far ahead that I don't think Vivek's votes matter too much in these other places. I kind of wanted Vivek to be that dark horse in case there was harm done. But apparently there was a phone call, and Vivek got the call, made a decision to pull out. Literally the same day, Vivek said in an interview that he would never quit. He wants to be there till the end to make sure that in case there's harm to Trump, that there will be another America First candidate there. Very interesting. Suspending your campaign doesn't necessarily mean ending. Okay, and so he suspended the campaign. He's now stumping for Trump in New Hampshire. And was there a deal there? What did Vivek get from Trump to step down and step out? So it's very interesting as China is dumping massive amounts of stocks today. We've got your U.S. and other, your BlackRocks, your Vanguards, pulling tons of money out of China, knowing that Trump is dominating. And we'll see what happens. But I'm going to leave it there, folks, at 50 minutes. I do have so much more to say, but that's all I can do today. I'll be back with you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching the channel. If you get something from this channel you feel is added value and you can help support the channel, it's appreciated more now than ever. This year is going to be huge. I'm going to be doing as much heavy lifting as I can to deep dive into things about what is harming us and what their plan is and how we can rise out of it. So thanks so much for your support. You are free. I wish you all the very best. This situation, so much of it is God-based and prayer-based. And so let's get, really centered in our snuggie, position here with God, really talking to God constantly. How do I be your best instrument? What can I do? Show me, give me the tools, give me the illumination, give me the ways to see what the Holy Spirit wants me to do next for you in Jesus Christ's name. And ask that prayer every day and consistently and constantly envision what the future is in your mind's eye, in your dream of the future. What does it look like? And move your thoughts toward that, right? Our thoughts are things, and God can help you to create higher vibration thoughts, to be more in alignment with the teachings, right, of Jesus Christ. So I'll leave it there, folks. Thanks so much for watching. You are free, and I'll see you tomorrow.